So I'm pretty sure I fixed the problem. Third time's a charm, right? I'm pretty confident that I fixed the problem. I'll leave... I won't discuss it. I'll leave it in a pinned comment when the VOD from the stream comes up, I guess. Playing Yu-Gi-Oh! DOF. Ooh, sounds like a different game. Alright, I just want to get stuck into the tier list. Okay. Feel free to be active in the chat, because I'll know if my stream's been shut down if there's no chat, because that's what happened the last few times. I was like, literally nobody's typing anything. There'll be at least one person, but they weren't, so... Okay. This is what we got to work with, right? Everything figures. Yep. Okay. So, like, prior to this being here now, I put Ryoku, like, on this ridiculous pedestal straight away, because it's insane. Hey, Pysol. Shit, man. Like, I've got to describe Ryoku all over again, and it's such a headache. I don't need to tell anyone what this card does. If you don't know what it does, play the game and you'll find out the hard way. Eventually. It halves your life points, adds it to a monster. It's just ridiculous. It's, I feel like I barely need to explain why it is, but I guess I have to, right? Actually, can we just, I forgot, the elephant in the room. You can't get this card, so yeah, don't bother asking, because you can't get it. That's the answer. Like, literally, I just told you the answer. The answer is you can't get it. If you do want to get it, you have to get... I don't know, I'll leave that information in the description if you really care enough. If you can't understand English, I'm sorry, I don't speak other languages. Right. Sorry, but after having my stream shut down twice live, easing off the salt factor, you know what I mean? Just like, going from that to talking about Ryoku after I just explained it for 5 minutes to nobody, because there was no audible cue that my stream was shut down and I had the window minimized. Anyways. Like, literally, if no one's typing, I have to check, like, is it still live? Thank God. Alright, yeah, I think we're good. I think we're good. Okay! I think we're actually good. Crash? No. My PC's fine. Okay, anyways, look, let's just... Now that I've established we're live and we're good, we can actually talk about Ryoku, right? So you start with 4,000 life points, so on the first turn, you just think of this compared to any other quick card as well, when I talk about the context of it. It just halves the opponent's life points and gives it to a monster. And, like, I don't even need to explain why that's insane. It's just like... I made the argument the other day in the spell card tier list, even if this monster, not monster, even if this equip card halved your own life points and gave it to your own monster, it would still be like the most broken card in the game. It's the best burn card, it makes every other burn card a joke. Like, Ryoku's plus a burn card means you win. Right. And, like, compared to other burn cards, they're spell cards. You have to activate them one by one each turn. Ryoku, theoretically, you can just equip 3 of them on the same monster. So you can use 3 of them, 3 of that effect in the same turn. All in the meanwhile, you get ridiculous amounts of power-ups. Like, just using one Ryoku at the start of the game just totally eclipses every other power-up in terms of damage, and this is the same card that halves your opponent's life points. Holy shit, it's so ridiculous. Why did they even... I guess they just added this for the final bosses to be more difficult, but... It's so ridiculous. Definitely better than Mirror Wall. It's just broken. Like, it's not fair. And the funny thing is about this card, every Duelist of the Roses player has dreamed of using it, but it's one of those things where it's so good, it's just boring. It really trivializes the game. I mean, I assume some people watching me, my channel, know about Ratchet & Clank because this is a PS2 game, right? Remember Ratchet & Clank 3? When you fully upgrade the Rhino 3 and it just kills everything, and it's just like, well, this game's not fun anymore because whatever's on the screen just disappears. You know, it's just, if you use Ryoku, if you actually had Ryokus, you'd probably use it once and be like, oh yeah, I'm so powerful, and then you just realize it doesn't matter what you do, you would just automatically beat everyone because you have Ryokus, and it wouldn't be good anymore. Keep having to double check. Yeah, perfectly balanced. Should go right in the middle, right? It's just so stupid. It really is. Like, this card literally is just, like, this is an unfair card. Like, the card. That's what it is. They literally tried to design the most unfair thing that they could do in the game. Well, I guess that was easy to program. Probably would have been easier than programming like 75% of life points. It's like, I don't know, maybe that's not true, but they're probably like, you know what, the effect in real life is half life points, so we'll do this and make it the most broken card in the game because of the way Duelist of Roses works and that card's effect in this game. Stupid, right? Just final thoughts on this. It is dumb. Alright, it's broken, you can't get it, and it's plagued me. It's plagued my whole years of YouTube, and I will complain about this. I'll take this to my grave. Just the amount of times I get a notification, and I'm hoping it's just, you know, someone asking a nice question, you know, they want help with something, and it's just how to get Ryoku. And I'm just, there's a trigger in my head. It's like, do I really give this guy a paragraph on how to get it? Or do I just tell him you can't, because you can't? It's not, I did not develop this game, okay? But I played it a lot, and if you want to hear it from the expert, quote unquote, you can't get the card. I think a lot of people know that. Yeah, Exodia is just the I win card. It's the I am a final boss card. I have 3 of this broken card. Alright. Sword equips. Sword. Let's actually move Kunai with Chain up here. So, there's an interesting property with the sword equips, right? Something probably not a lot of people think about, but Kunai with Chain goes on Warriors and Beast Warriors, right? And then the Warrior equips, you have Legendary Sword, which goes on Earth and Light Warriors, and then you have Sword of Dark Destruction, which goes on all the other types. And when I say all the other types, I think there's like 2 Fire Warriors, 1 Water Warrior, and then like 3. Maybe 1 or 2 more or less, I'm not 100% sure about Wind. But then like fucking shit tons of just Earth. So the fact about, like, if you're constructing a warrior deck that had a particular element, so Dark or Earth, just because that's the most common type between these two, you would literally put in, you would consider Kunai with Chain before these. I mean, it has 5 more deck cost, but how much does that matter? Like, even if you have, like, it really doesn't. Like, I know in the context of comparing a spell that has 20 and 80, you might be like, well, you know, think about this, blah, blah, blah. But, like, 3 Kunai with Chains instead of something else is, like, you know, and I mean, when you look at a card like Invigoration, it's a joke, right? Like, if you're doing an Earth Warrior deck, why would you ever put in Invigoration before that? I mean, seriously. Like, even if you were running, like, females and beasts, like, I don't know, Nekagao number 2s for whatever reason. Which you wouldn't, because it's a pure warrior deck, so fuck that. Scratch that. Scratch that one. That's not even, like, I don't know, warriors are just not good decks. Kanawa Chain, though, is actually good. Hey, Q-Master, how's it going? I'm going to put it in the good category because it goes on 2 different monsters, and it is like the superior equip essentially of what it goes on. Like, you have just more options. You have basically the entire warrior library with this equip, whereas these are only segregated. So these are average, almost teetering below average. I think actually probably they are below average because I consider warriors a pretty weak type. So, Legendary Sword, I pretty much, like, ignore the fact that this goes on anything other than Earth and Light Warriors, because those aren't very significant. There's a lot of Earth Warriors, but not a lot of them are very good. What can I say about a deck that's, like, it uses this equip, and it's the only deck that uses this equip, and they rely on it, it serves them well, but... You know, because, like, I don't even think any equips are bad. Equips are so good that they're always useful in some context, but... outside of the warrior bubble, it's just too strictly limited. It only works on one type, and only 2 attributes of that type. One of the 2 attributes, light, there's 4 light warriors in the game, 3 are obtainable. They're all pretty cool looking, but they have terrible stats. Even the ritual one, Skull Guardian, like, what are you gonna do? Apart from Judge Man, like, this is... Judge Man with legendary swords, like, casual, you'll kill everyone, but... player versus player, it's not. And in this... This is actually probably worse. The best monster I could say you could put it on is Swordstalker. There's some powerful ritual monsters that are dark warriors, but you have to ritual summon them. So in the scope of the game, the most efficient thing you can do with this is, like, I don't know, dump a bunch of monsters with Swordstalker and equip it with this, and I don't know. You don't put it on Green Carper, because then Green Carper, like the best warrior monster for that sort of strategy, probably just... Well, I mean, not probably. It literally just overrides the equip anyways. So, this goes below, I think. And it pains me because I think warriors are very aesthetic, especially Dark Warriors, and I think this is a cool looking card. I like strategies with Dark Warriors, especially if you're like a cheater like me, and you like to show off in videos with Game Shark cards. It's very cool to have a bunch of dark, edgy warrior dudes with some of these. Invigoration is definitely below average. As I said, like, see the tier names, there's no bad tier. Invigoration isn't bad. It still does what it does, it's just inferior to, like, anything else. It's a backup that's generally not needed. It's just kind of there. Earth is, like, a lot of monsters. 15 deck cost I don't care too much about. It's the 300 damage, the 300 attack and defense, which is a stinger. Considering the big strategy, the best strategy, of course, is just to play as many equips as possible on a monster. Consider the difference of having 3 plus 500s instead of 3 plus 300s. You're missing out on 600 damage over the course of 3 equips. So in saying that, it's probably going to be at the bottom somewhere at the end of this, but... yeah, I'm putting it here now. I don't expect anything to go below it. I can't see anything I can think of. Or actually maybe one thing, but that's later on. Dark Energy is basically the same deal, but it retains the 10 deck costs like equips normally do. This is also a bit of a stinger. Dark spellcasters like Dark Magician really suffer. Like, Yeah, Invigoration costs 15. Dark Energy costs 10. So, yeah, you know what? Actually, that reminded me. Even though I did mention its deck cost was 15, compare it to Megamorph. There's literally like no reason to use an Invigoration before Megamorph. Have any interest in making videos with Bin Memories? No, I do not, unfortunately. If I ever had any interaction with that game, it would be a live stream of that game. Anywho, more useful than Invigoration. It is also, you know, 2/3 of the deck cost. I say deck cost doesn't really matter that much, but when you're comparing that closely, it does start to matter. That's what the point I made with Megamorph versus Invigoration. There is literally no difference there, so I can't actually even factor in the deck cost at all. I just have to compare them like even closer. I don't want to compare them too far away, because they're both basically the same thing but for their own type. But Dark Monsters are overall stronger. Both of them are obsolesced. I mean, they're both obsolesced by Megamorph, and even Dark strategies wouldn't even have to use Megamorph. They would normally have enough, with the exception of Dark Spellcasters, other than Skull Knight and the really powerful ritual ones you can't summon. A lot of Dark Monsters, you can put like multiple equips on them without even needing Dark Energy. Acts of Despair and Beast Warriors. I consider this again good because it works on. There's no way you can mingle like Fiends and Beast Warriors in an op that use like edgy beasts. Like, you know how there's Barox, he kind of resembles just like a demonic kind of beast. It's really nice to just have extra equips for those types in the scope of, I probably said scope like 5 times in this video. What was I gonna say? This is live streaming for you. If you think about Fiends or Beast Warriors, they already have multiple equips, but this is part of the collectively they make those reckoned with. Insect equip cards. Say if I want to put them in average or below a 10 deck cost card, that I look at the below average tier, and we have something that doesn't work on all attributes. 2 cards that don't. I think I average, even though they only work on one type. As a pair, and they're no better than the ones that are more versatile unless you mix that strategy. We might come across earn their way into the very good category, but in terms of just equipping one monster type, it's by only letting you use certain boost. I think they're pretty cool. So Elf's Light only put it on a monster because its original name is Elf Swordsman. Celtic Guardian, of course, that we should call it Celtic Guardian instead of Elf Swordsman. That's why we can't use Elf's Light as an equip on Celtic Guardian in this game. That is literally the reason why. So 700 attack and defense. The use is limited. You have to play an elf deck with it. It's such a good asset for an elf deck that it's insane. It gives you an advantage over all these other 500 attack and especially 300 attack equips. Like, it's 700 attack is more than double than, you know, the 300 attack like Megamorph. Like, it's crazy. Comparing Megamorph, which you think is a really good, really useful card because it's so versatile, to something that gives plus 700, and it's like, wow. Can we justify the use? Well, yeah, Dark Elf Turbo, just have all these elf. So, you know, say first turn Dark Elf, you play it, you got 500 attack and defense from your deck leader, and then you just give it 3 of these, that's another 2100, so you've got, what, 4600 damage with 3 equips. Pretty crazy. And that's, you could play that for 1 star, like you could fuse Dancing Elf with Exodia. Not the whole of Exodia, obviously, but an Exodia like leg or arm, and that's a 1-star fusion, and then you add 3 of them in your first hand. That's, yeah, crazy. Having problems here? Is my internet that bad? Seems like everything's going okay. Yeah, it could also be useful in a Mystical Elf deck, because that card just gives itself 800 attack, and if you play a bunch of them, if you somehow manage to bring out a bunch of them at the same time, buffed with Elf's Light and shit, then damn. I think I'd say this is good, because it's 700 damage, like, it's really good, but again, it is limited. You can't just stick this in any deck, you have to be playing an elf deck for it to work. In saying that, it is, I'd say it's well above average, because 700 is a lot when you have 3 of them. You just get an extra 600 damage for free. over any other equip that doesn't have 700 attacks, so it does have an advantage over all of these guys, but its versatility is limited, so let's stick it at the back of good. Beast Fangs. Average. Maybe even... I would always say below average, but beasts and insects are kind of very similar in terms of like the damage you can bring out. Just for reference, Beast Fangs only go on beasts, whereas Mystical Moon is the equip that goes on beasts and beast warriors. So Beast Fangs, they look pretty funny actually. I have a fond memory of trying to get multiple of these cards when I was maybe like 10 years old, so I could put them in my Firewing Pegasus. Back then, like, I probably didn't even realize you can get Firewing Pegasus in the slots, but you can't. So, yeah. Yeah, these two actually have the exact same effect. They work on the exact same monsters. They programmed that successfully without error. Unless someone wants to prove me wrong, but yeah, no one's... even the people that know, like, more than me about the game, like, there's no error between these two, it's just a different name. Beast Fangs. Average. It's still 500, so... Steel Shell. Sorry about the noise. I really need like a better streaming setup, but you know, it's a lot of money investment. Anyways, Steel Shell goes on any monster with a shell. That's very vague. It's hard to compare this card to any of the ones I've listed so far. It's more in the lines of Horn of Light and Horn of the Unicorn, which we'll get to, so I might actually just stick this next to those. Make a bit more sense. I mean, we're going to get through them all anyway, so don't worry about a bit of delay on it. Vile Germs works on plants only, same logic as these, and they're all forest types, funnily enough. Plants are probably the best out of these types, though, so I'll probably put them in average, because... I don't even know, actually, because if you're running, like, Rose Spectre of Dun Turbo, which is probably, like, a good way to play a plant deck, it's very consistent. It's more consistent than, Dark Elf Turbo, actually. Then, and at, like, better effects and everything, in my opinion. Anyways, if you're doing that, you would play a lot of, like, you'd play Malevolent Nosler and, I don't know, Female Equips or something, but it's still a good card, like a good secondary after Malevolent Nosler is probably better for that. I didn't add those, didn't I? I might have to add them in. I think I can edit this tier list because I made it, so I can probably put them in at the end. Black Pendant only works on Dark Spellcasters, so you guys know where it goes. Dark Spellcasters are probably the highest attack type out of these, and Dark Spellcasters actually probably need these a lot more than any other equip that they can ask for. It's 500 attack and it goes on all the Dark Spellcasters. There's like no arguing with that. Dark Energy, Megamorph, all less damage. Horn of the Unicorn only goes on Skull Knight and the powerful ritual ones, as well as like one or two weaker ones. It's a no-brainer. They're very reliant on that spell, so it's a very strong spell for that type compared to some like Vile Germs, but in general this is just the most powerful one, so... Green Face Girl, Malevolent Nosler. When I was young, I used to call it Malevolent Nosler. But it's, you know, the word malevolence. Malevolent Nosler. Nuzzle as in, you know, you nuzzle something. I mean, I could... if I remember, I will put Metamorph and Insect Imitation. I probably would have just forgot. I would have been like, well, they're kind of like, yeah, fusion material. But they technically are power-up cards. I mean, I included, like, Ryoku and Paralyzed Inversion and shit. Anyways. Silver Bow and Arrow works on fairies. They're probably one of the weakest damage types here. Not the weakest type in general, but weakest damage type. Fairies also have a lot of other options. It's pretty hard to put this and rank this in the middle here. Just because they're good, I'll stick it here. They have way other options like Bright Castle and all the female equips. So, yeah. Message retracted. Nice. Okay, Horn equips. These are so good. I love them. They're my favorite. If anyone watching this doesn't use the Horn equip cards, you are missing out, and you need to... like, if you don't have them on your file, like if you don't have 3 copies of each, you need to do that right now. If you want to actually do it, and you don't know how, I will literally tell you how to do it. Or are you wrong? Well, I mean, here's the thing, right? We get to all the things eventually. Like, I got a lot of cards to talk about here, and I'm going to get to all of them at some point, so just may as well talk about what's being talked about now. That's what I don't get. Like, I know you're eager to say your opinion on some card that's like over here or some shit, but we're going to get to it. Like, it's just going to keep disappearing, so we'll talk about that later, okay? I want to talk about Horn of the Light. Horn of Light, not Horn of the Light. Horn of Light. This goes on every monster that has horns that is not dark. So, pretty much every type other than, like, monsters that are exclusively dark, or pretty much all dark, like, any monster type other than fiends, zombies, I guess also spellcasters for the most part. They lack damage and don't have a lot of good horn stuff. A lot of other monster types, just you'll be surprised how many of them can benefit from Horn of the Unicorn and Horn of Light. Horn of Light specifically in this case. I could talk about them both. I mean, Horn of the Unicorn, it's any horn monster of dark gets a 500 boost. So let's actually think of a deck for each of them, right? And see how practical it is. Like, how good these are as an option over even Megamorph, actually. Horn of Light doesn't work on Blue Eyes, but fuck Blue Eyes. You want to play 2000 attack dragons in the first hand with Thunders. Very good cards include Thunder Nyan Nyan, which is equipable with Horn of Light. Most of the Thunders are equipable with Horn of Light. Twin-headed Thunder Dragon is, that's the important one. And other fusion fodder you have, not Curse of Dragon, but Parrot Dragon you can equip with Horn of Light. You can also equip Thousand Dragon and Harpy's Dragon with it. So consider, like, your deck is constructed around bringing out a turn 1 Twin-headed Thunder Dragon, and you don't have enough dragons to cover it. You can fuse like Petite Dragon with Time Wizard, and if you don't have a what's it called? What's the word I'm looking for? Yeah, oh yeah, if you don't have a Thunder in your hand, you can still stick Horn of Light on it, so the versatility is there. You can construct decks where, like, pretty much so many of your monsters are equipable with this that it just does not matter. Having the extra 200 damage per equip outweighs the disadvantage of Megamorph working on literally everything. You can literally make a deck that all of your monsters are equipable with this card, and then it becomes a 500 attack Megamorph, basically. You can even work it with different decks, mixed decks if you want to. I don't necessarily think mixed decks are good, but I actually kind of digress with this. In the case of a Dark Dragon deck, you want to stick Summon Skulls in the deck, or like Summon Skull Fusions. So what's the first option after, say, Nails of Bane? This. This is better than Dark Energy or Megamorph, because it would work on all of your Dark Dragons, assuming you purposely don't use Dark Fire Dragon, because you probably wouldn't need it, and it doesn't work with Horn of the Unicorn. It's like the one thing that does. If you just omit that monster, and you have a deck full of Dark Dragons and Summon Skulls, this is literally Megamorph. Like, it goes on every single monster you can play. So, it's more versatile than a card that's only locked to one type, and I can say the same thing about both of these cards. They're both so good. These are honestly the first cards I add into decks where my most powerful monsters use them, and then I have a look at what else fits with these. And most of the time it works out. I always end up using these. If something has something something has something. If a deck has a power-up card that's just blatantly way better than it, like it's just the same thing but guaranteed, like a Bright Castle, over a deck full of like light monsters using Horn of Light, then obviously that's better, but this will work in so many different strategies as long as the monsters are not dark. Like, it's bizarre. Yep, if something has something, that is the ultimate logic. So I put these in very good because they're Megamorphs you have to work for. That's why I love them. They're to me, personally, they're like a gift for someone who really likes being creative and likes the aesthetic of some of the monsters in this game and really appreciates cards like this. I love using them, and they are awesome. They're so useful. Definitely give them a go. If you don't use these, start using them. They're very good. Okay, Steel Shell, not as good. So, Steel Shell works on anything that has a shell. So instead of a horn monster of this or a horn monster of that, it works on anything that has a shell. This doesn't have an attribute drawback like the other ones, but it's not nearly as useful, which is, the scales are way off on that. Like, the fact that this doesn't... Like, if this card set only worked on water monsters, it would be the same card. There's like one or two water monsters it works on, and those cards will be something like Tripwire Beast. Actually, no, that doesn't have a shell, but it would be like some obscure, crappy stat monster I'm just not thinking about. You can stick it on Morinfen. I'm dead serious. You can actually put Steel Shell on Morinfen, that Fiend card. I'm pretty sure that's a programming error. Don't even think about Morinfen Turbo, don't even try. It's just a not very good stat monster. You would never use this anyways, because you have 3 to 4 decent Fiend equips. Like, it's insane. Yep, like the most highest attack monster you can put this on, like, probably Sea King Dragon or something. You can't even put this on Aqua Dragon because Aqua Dragon doesn't have a shell. The best water monsters don't have shells, so why would you use this over any other one? So even though this has its variety, and crabs are aesthetic, like all the crab cards and all the shell cards are pretty cool, it's not nearly as useful as these contemporaries. So I'm going to stick it at the top of average, I'll be honest. Or maybe good, you know what? I don't know, because it's just like, it's less useful than you'd think. Compared to these, like, these horn cards will go on the highest attack monsters of the types that they're eligible on pretty much all the time, like Tornado Thunder Dragon. And in the case of the Horn of the Unicorn, you can stick it on like Cosmo Queen, Black Skull Dragon. It's just insane. Alright, Dragon Treasure. So this goes on dragons and sea serpents. Because there's only 5 sea serpents in the game, and sea serpents kind of have other equips, they don't necessarily need this one as much. I can barely factor that in. I think I would probably put this at the top of average. I'm aware dragons are like the highest attack monsters in the game, so I could probably justify sticking it in good, but in reality, this kind of is a second option for the types that it supports. And one of the types that it supports barely exists in the game. Like, it barely cares. There's 5 sea serpents, the rest are dragons. It's good, the variety of being able to have a 500 attack equip on a dragon is actually pretty good, so I might stick it at the bottom of good. I do like Dragon Treasure, and even though I did say I can't really count sea serpents as a big second type, it is still more than one type. Like, it is still technically 2. I still have Aqua Dragon, even though, you know, sea serpents have other equips, as I said. You want to run more than 6, so bottom of good or top of average. again, not setting rules really makes it hard to make tier lists sometimes, but it's not like a do or die, we can always fix it later, so let's just do this. Top of average, and we'll see later on, hey, look at how the color merges, that's actually really cool. Nice. Okay. Electro Whip. Now we're talking, now we're getting into the female equips. Female equips, we've already talked about versatile cards, and these are just crazy, so I'll stick Malevolent Nosler at the back of these three. So all these three equips go on all female monsters in the game. Doesn't matter what type or attribute, if it's female, you go, there you go. So there's different ways of checking if it's female. The typical way is you look at the compatible equips, and it's 3 in there. Not just Malevolent Nosler, you need to see all 3 of these in there, then it's a female. Then it means it counts for female fusions, and female fusions pretty much always result in a female. So if you ever fuse something with a female, then you can stick one of these equips on it. The consistency, like, I don't know, you could argue how good is a female deck or how good is not a female deck, but I would say it's less about that and more the fact that some really good decks could theoretically run a lot of females. Dark Elf Turbo, Rose Vector Redund Turbo, you know, like all these weird efficient fusion strategies that just bring out coincidentally females because they're so popular in the fusion chart. It really pays off. You can just stick 3 of these in the deck and it's like having 3 Megamorphs if all your monsters are female, so that is an option. Otherwise, you could have what else could you have? White spellcasters, like with mystical elves, and just, yeah, because pretty much all the light spellcasters you're going to use are female, and then, I don't know, maybe you stick 1 rogue doll in there and laugh at the guy who thought Pumpkin was overpowered. That would be funny. These are in the very good category because of the versatility. And even though you can't play the strongest monsters in the game, like out of the hand, some of the strongest monsters, like there's Cosmo Queen is female. Well, I guess that's the only one on that scale. The rest are about 2000, right? Dark Elf, Mystical Sand, Empress Judge, 2100. Just like Mystical Sand, which is 2100. Are there any fiends that can use the Horn equips? Like all of them, pretty much? Almost all of the fiends can use Horn of the Unicorn. All the good ones, pretty much all the good ones do. Zoa does, Summon Skull does, Toon Summon Skull does, I think Soul Hunter does, Ushioni does, I think Bikuri Box maybe, but that card's not even good, so that doesn't really matter. I love Bikuri Box, but it's not a good card. Anyways. Whew. Hard to rank these two specifically, because this one eclipses it, so imagine all these 3 are the same, but then this just is a free Fiend's Castle, right? Where is Fiend's Castle? These 3 cards work on every single female. These 2 cards work on every single fiend. So this is basically just like 2 cards for 1. So all females, very versatile. It is good at the minimum, very good at the max. I don't think it's as good as Horn because generally the Horn monsters end up being more powerful than female monsters. And there's a lot of fusions for Horns as well as females because the versatility of the Horn ones are actually pretty crazy. As I mentioned before, like just a few seconds ago with the Fiends. And like Dark Dragon fusions, if you made just like a Dark Dragon deck, you'd be using a lot of fusions to make red eyes, or if you dump fusion fodder, or you'd need to attack with like fusion fodder for whatever reason, you can stick this on it and it's like boom. So I would say females are not as good, the female equips, but this one is also a Fiend's Castle. The interesting thing is there's only 1 Fiend female in the game, which is Keymace number 2, and She's a terrible stat monster, like you would never use that card over any other female card. But, in saying that, you would use this card before the other ones, because just in case you stuck, I don't know, a Mask of Darkness in the deck, or a Candle of Fate, or I don't know what, but that it's a possibility, you know. It's just a free. It's basically, this is your female equip, but it also just works on Fiends, because why the fuck not? Yep, Red Eyes Black Skull Dragon fusion with Horn of Unicorn. Even, yeah, Summon Skull, Horn of the Unicorn. The other Fiend fusions I mentioned, Ushioni fusion, and Soul Hunter fusion, Horn of the Unicorn. Zola's not a fusion, but it's the highest attack monster you can get out of the graveyard. Is there any other 2600 attack monster you can get out of the graveyard? There is not. There's no way. There's a 2600 defense one, but not 2600 attack. So yeah, this, I think, like, this is definitely above the other two. I'm not sure if it's at the top or very good. Because again, like, Fiend and Female, those strategies are split into two, so this is only as useful as one of these or the other, but it does trump the other ones out, because it is literally the other one plus Fiend's Castle. Fiend's Castle, average. As I said, Fiends are a strong type. They also have other equips, so this is a final choice for Fiends, I'd say. Or, well, I guess if it's a pure Fiend deck, you could just chuck it in as the first one, but... just slot them next to their buddy here. Me gusta que se siga hablando de esto luego. I have no idea what the fuck you said. Okay, so Mystical Moon. This works on Beasts and Beast Warriors. Unlike its counterpart, Beast Fangs, it just works on Beasts. So, this goes in good, right? The problem is, neither of these archetypes necessarily that good. Beast Warriors are probably better than Beasts, and even then they're not that fantastic. Both of those types are pretty much enabled by power-ups. They're like easy fusion strategies that bring out mediocre damage, like pretty average damage, and then just lots of equip compatibility. So, versatility is there to keep it in the good sphere, but... and realistically, running a Beast Warrior deck, you could just have like 3 Nekagals in there, like Nekagal number 1, because they're Beast and Female. They'll fuse to make you fodder, and if for whatever reason you draw a handful of, like, nothing except, I don't know, 3 Mystical Moons and 1 Nekagal, and another card you couldn't actually play or make a combination with that, you could theoretically do that, and that actually seems like a realistic scenario. So, weird justification, but for what it is, where it is good. Invigoration would be after this, definitely. Invigoration would be after everything, it'd be after Megamorph. Book of Secret Arts. Okay, so this goes on every spellcaster that is not dark. So it's the Horn of Light to the Horn of the Unicorn in the case of this analogy. How good are light spellcasters? I love how I say light spellcasters as if this only works on light spellcasters, because the other spellcasters are barely a factor. The Earth ones, apart from Gemini Elf, which is very strong, obviously, apart from Gemini Elf, are terrible. Yeah, the Wind ones, like, there's Kazajan, but that's honestly not that good of a card. You can't fuse it, so you'd have to wait till your second turn to play it, so, you know. Wind strategies, like, I don't know, what, you play 2 Blade Flyers or 3 Blade Flyers and a Kazajan with Book of Winds, like, I don't know. I don't really know. The use for this card is limited. Light spellcaster decks are probably the only way to see use of it, and it is limited. It's honestly below average, right? Actually, that makes me reconsider this card, because it only works on one element of that type, so they should really be... I mean, because the type needs it, it is very useful in that regard, and I guess, like, light spellcasters would be all female. You've got Bright Castle as well. They don't need it as badly. and all the types that aren't dark are weaker than dark spellcasters. So attacking these at the bottom of average, like... I don't know. Spirit of the Books. That's a winged beast. So you need Gust Fan or Follow Wind. Okay, Violet Crystal. This is a situation pretty much identical to Dark Spellcasters. It works on one type, but zombies, literally every single zombie in the game is dark. If you didn't know that, now you do. Literally every single zombie in the game is dark. So this may as well just be, you know, a one element equip, right? I think dark spellcasters are better than zombies, so I'm just going to put these below. This has to be just tucked underneath this. Like, Violet Crystal is not more versatile because it literally only, like, both of these literally only work on the dark monsters of their own types, so yeah. I can't say Violet Crystal is actually as useful as any of these other more versatile cards. I know it still literally goes on every zombie, but the zombie type in comparison to the potential of dark spellcasters, you can argue those decks are built very similarly and rely on a lot of other cards to enable themselves, so you can just sit there for now. Yet again, we have the same story. A powerful archetype, arguably a better archetype than the other two, so I might stick it at the top. Only works on one type. Machines, they vary in attribute, but if you're playing machines, you'd probably only play dark machines. So yeah, I'm slotting it with these. It's average because it just goes on the one monster type. Can't really argue with that. Maybe it's another one yet again. Reptiles and dinosaurs. So I've already established that dinosaurs suck. Reptiles are okay. I actually consider them decent. Like, I talked about it more in my monster type strategy thing, so I don't want to go into it too much detail right now, but ultimately just pretend this is a reptile spell. I mean, yeah, it works on dinosaurs, but who cares about dinosaurs, right? Why would you play them? It's average. I mean, I'm not going to say this is good because it works on two archetypes when they're like, one's a niche archetype and the other one's just garbage. That's, like, its usefulness is very limited. Dinos don't deserve love. I don't know. I never really liked dinosaurs that much as a kid. Another case, wing beasts only. Probably the worst type out of these. They also probably got better options, better side options. Such as Horn of Light and Gust Fan. Power of Kashin. Now we're getting to the juicy ones. I'm actually going to link these together if I can. No, not that one. Yeah, that's it, right? Water, fire, light, wind, dark, earth. So these four elemental equips, they work on the less popular types, but that doesn't mean the least powerful types. Maybe inferior to dark, but definitely, like, pretty much all these types except maybe fire could outdo earth. And I mean, even out fire could outdo earth, actually. Like, imagine running a warrior deck. You could just run, you know, or I guess warrior deck, like a Flame Swordsman turbo deck, right? You have 3 Kunai with Chain, 3 Sword of Dark Destruction, and then 3 Salamander or something. That's like your max amount of equips. Not everyone would run 9, but it's an option before you even bother with Megamorph. So yeah, this goes on... But this is crazy, right? Compare this to Steel Shell, that basically goes on about half the water monsters. This goes on literally every water monster. This goes on the best ones, like this goes on Aqua Dragon, even Roaring Ocean Snake. Fan of that card. It's not the best card in the game, but its effect is very, very strong, and its stat line is decent. It's just you can't fuse into it. But Aqua Dragon is basically the same card. Slightly different effect, but still generally almost always as useful, and slightly better stat line. You can fuse to make it. You can stick Power of Kai Shin on that, and you can't stick Steel Shell on it. It's definitely in the good category. Yeah, might even be at the top so far. Salamander. I would say not as useful, but again, like that Flame Swordsman strategy is probably not very good. Because you're just repeatedly fusing an 1800 attack monster compared to, like, 2250 with a water effect, so I don't know, unless you're doing like Meteor Black Dragon Turbo, then I guess it's an option. It's one of your only options apart from Dragon Treasure and of course Megamorph. There's Pyros. There you go. Pyros have Spring Rebirth and thingy, but this gives them a third equip, so they're pretty good. I shouldn't really underestimate fire because, well, first of all, it kills you. But you know what I mean. The Meteor Black Dragon and then like the whole Pyro archetype. So I attack them at the end of good. Actually, I'd argue that it's more useful than. It's just the versatility. When I think of like something like this, I think there's no way I can rank Salamander below it. You'll learn the game very quickly if you just start fusing stuff and putting equips on it. You'll learn how to win very quickly. Bright Castle. Probably the top of these so far. Light contains some of the highest attack monsters in the game, fusion or non-fusion. So you've got Blue Eyes White Dragon, literally the highest attack monster you can play without fusing anything out of the hand. You've also got Twin-Headed Thunder Dragon, one of the highest monsters you can play on your first turn. So it's no joke. There are pretty much any archetype that has light monsters, so obviously not Pyro and not zombies, and I guess a few others that maybe have like one or two of them. Every other type can benefit so heavily from this card. Like, honestly, to the point where some decks, especially light buff decks, like Hello, stuff with a lot of dancing elves, mystical elves, a light elf deck, would be picking this, like before female cards, before, what else would they use? Before Silver Bow and Arrow, before Book of Secret Arts. Aquas, they have like one or two light monsters, but it's barely a factor. Yep, almost all fairies are light. Any one of them except Dancing Elf, which is purely like you don't play that card out of the hand, you fuse it. That's the whole point of that card. And Dome of the Angel of Silence, but it's 5-star, 1600 attack, not even female. That card is just useless. The only use it would have is trying to stun the opposite element. Like trying to stun an enemy light monster if they revived it from you, but that's just so stupid. You may as well just play a better card than Dome of the Angel. You may as well just play Paralyzed Inversion. Save yourself 5 summoning stars. Right? Okay. Gust Fan. Maybe at the bottom. Maybe not. You can play Thousand Dragon Turbo, Harpies strategy. Like, Harpies would pick this before Follow Wind because it would work on the dragons. So, stick a bunch of wind dragons in and start making Harpy's Pet Dragon over and over and over again. I don't think these cards are as good as like Aqua Dragon, but it's hard to weigh these two together, with the exception of a Pyro deck. Salamander's use is quite limited compared to Gust Fan, which would be a good choice in a lot of archetypes. It would also make a wind deck possible with Blade Fly and Gust Fan, and then a bunch of wind cards, obviously. But not saying that would be necessarily crazy, but yep, Doma's Mail. It took me a while to like remember. I wouldn't have even thought about female cards until, I don't know, maybe late 2000s, and I didn't even realize it was because yeah, it's Angel, but it's not Angel as in petite. I mean, because there's Petite Angel that's not female, but like other angels, Muse A's original name was Muse Angel. Weird. Hope you're not too late. Not really. I mean, we've still got whatever you can see below the tier list now. But yeah, Doma's Mail, so that card's basically shit. That's the criteria for being shit if it's not female. No, just kidding. Alright, High Tide. Dude, you made me experience High Tide! Alright, that was terrible. I didn't want to say it. I didn't want to do it too loudly. You need to project when you do that voice, but every fucking time I read High Tide, I just think of that SpongeBob thing. This works on fish and sea serpents. Fish suck, sea serpents have 5 monsters in the type. So these are average. Like, this may as well be one type, right? Like, it's a type that sucks plus a type that has 5 monsters. Doma, no, I don't think so. Bottom of average. Actually, no. Where is... Well, Dragon Treasures are fucking Dragon Treasures, so... Yeah, these go at the bottom. It's the second choice for Sea Serpents, right? Unless you're playing fish with them, but you wouldn't. You play Aqua with Sea Serpents, so you can keep making Aqua Dragon. Doma, the Fiend of Silence. Fish do suck. Oh man, speaking of fish, like... I would love fish and chips right now, but it's like 9:45. There's no fish and chips open. What is the time actually? I have food in the house. I was almost considering getting a pizza, but there's actually leftover pizza in the house right now, so that's a terrible idea. Alright, Spring of Rebirth. Versatility Ho. This works on rocks, pyros, thunders, and something I forgot. Rocks, pyros, thunders, aquas. Duh. So this is like... This is a power-up for 4 different archetypes. Like, it's crazy. All the 4 different archetypes would use this. This is a good power-up. Its versatility is crazy. It's crazy. Yeah, it is. It's almost like an elemental equip, but not in the actual element in the game, but works on Link monsters. No, this is not real-life Yu-Gi-Oh! Okay. Well, we're not doing that. Spring of Rebirth. Bottom of very good or top of good? Like, because you could actually stick this in the deck as like a higher priority than some other equip cards because of its versatility. Like if you were doing, I don't know, lots of Aquas and Thunders for some reason. I don't know why you would do that, but anyways. Maybe to make or twin-headed Thunder Dragon Turbo with Aqua Dragons. That would be way less efficient though, but there we go. Burning Spear. Very average. Only works on Pyros. Pyros also have other options, including the card we just mentioned, and Salamander. So it's a pretty easy choice. I do think they're a better type than these, but yeah, the usefulness is limited. Maybe they're a better type than some of these. No, I consider them... Leader abilities and everything, I consider them a better type than a fair amount of this, but with power-ups, we're not going to worry about leader abilities. Like, I'm not going to factor that in, like, oh, well, this type's better, so this equips better, because the type it equips has better leader abilities. That doesn't really make sense. Pyros generally have weak fusions compared to these other monsters, so they probably got the bottom here. Megamorph. Where do you guys think this is going to go? Where do you think it's going to go? If people keep saying S and A, like, as if I have those as the tiers. Megamorph is below average, ooh, not sure about that. I do agree with that sentiment though. Which is why I'm gonna put it in good. And here's why. So I think of this as an average equip card, right? It's pretty average, it gives you 300 on everything. It's an option before Invigoration. It's an option before Dark Energy. It is free damage to literally any deck that contains monsters and needs free slots to fill. It is guaranteed to work with any strategy you'd want it for, so I can't rate it low even though I want to because it's only 300 attack and defense. I'm not putting this in very good. I'm more inclined to put it in average than very good, but I think I'm going to stick with good. Because it is good. Like, it's not very good. Like, it is obsolesced by the Horn equips and the female equips, like, but in saying that, its versatility is unmatched by anything except Ryoku. And Ryoku is absolutely crazy, so. Yeah, I think with good, I'll put it below the elemental equip, and here's why. If you're running a strategy that actually has all monsters, doesn't matter what type, but they're the same element, these are all better. And it's actually very likely going to be able to do that with all these. You could have a pure Pyro deck, and you'd be using their elemental equip before Megamorph. Pure Wing Beast deck, you would go Gust Fan, and then the Follow Wind, that's what it's called, sorry I forgot. You would go Horn of Light before Megamorph. It makes more sense to... It literally makes more sense to remove a monster for something that has 100 less attack and, like, ignore the other factors. Say it's the same summoning cost and deck cost, because deck cost doesn't really matter here. It makes more sense to remove a monster in favor of a monster that has 100 less attack but is equipable with Horn of Light, because you would get more damage out of it. If your entire deck was set up so that everything worked with Horn of Light, you would always have that net 100 damage benefit. Like, Megamorph has 15 deck cost. Not all non-Ryoku equips have the same deck cost. Megamorph is 15, as is Kunai with Chain and Invigoration. The difference of 10 and 15 deck cost isn't very insane though, percentage-wise it is, but really it barely matters. It's +5, when your total deck cost will be anywhere from a few hundred to over 1,000, so it's really not a factor. Yeah, 15 stops it from being great. If it was 10 deck costs, there'll be the margin of actually making, like, if this and this were 10 deck costs in addition to Dark Energy, which is the way I think these three should kind of be. Well, this should be more deck cost, right? But imagine these are all the same deck cost. Then these cards would just be totally useless. You'd always have your elemental equips and those types before them. So yeah, compare these cards with these elemental equips. These ones are justified by being able to construct and have a net plus 600 attack damage. This one is way above these because it's the exact same thing, but infinitely versatile. Okay, 7 completed. Boy, this card is not good, is it? This only works on Slot Machine, and it gives it 700 attack and defense. So, pretty good, right? 700, but it only goes on one monster. So, let's try and demonstrate the problem, right? Let's say instead you have Barrel Dragons in your deck, Labyrinth Tanks, even Launcher Spider. Those are the other 3 7-star cards. A deck full of those with a deck full of normal machine conversion factories wouldn't give you the same total damage after all 3, of course, but the machine conversion factory works on all of those monsters, and if you only draw one of the equip, machine conversion factory plus, or rather any monster that isn't slot machine of those ones I mentioned, plus machine conversion factory equals more damage, or in the case of Launcher Spider, equal damage to slot machine plus 1, 7 completed. And you only ever get slot machine plus 7 completed if you have one of each card in your hand and 7 summoning stars. Or I guess 5 if you have reduction, but still that's 5 that reduces the other monsters as well. So like, how likely is this going to happen? Like, why would you even bother? Whereas Megamorph, I forgot to add some. I'll be adding them in soon, I believe. You're here? Well, hello. So yeah, it's one monster. It works on one monster that isn't good. It's below average. I would argue Invigoration is more useful. This just does not work at all. Like, not even hyperbole. It literally doesn't do anything unless you have Slot Machine in your deck. And even if you have 3 of these and 3 Slot Machine, you have to draw 1 of each for it to be compatible. And even then, it's like, if you draw 3 of these and no Slot Machines, like, you're fucked. Like, it's not consistent at all. So I just would never bother. Nails of Bane. We're going from one of the least consistent cards in the game to one of the most consistent. Well, I guess for Dragon decks, it's consistent. I don't even know why I made that analogy. I mean, just thinking about the synergy between Dark Dragons is why I say this is consistent, because imagine a Red Eyes Black Dragon, Black Skull Dragon strategy. You can have a lot of Dark equips. The actual reason why this is significant is not the versatility, it's actually going on every Dark Dragon. But Dark Dragon have like really powerful types. You can equip this on Red Eyes. It becomes 3100 attack, not 2900. You can equip it on Black Skull Dragon and it's 3900, not 3700. Like, this... Think about other 700 attack bonus equips in the game. Elf's Light, that's limited to elves, so there's like, I don't know, 5, 6 elves in the game. Highest attack one is 2000. What do we got here? The only card you can equip it on is a 7-star unfusible 2000 attack machine. Nails of Bane goes on all your Dark Dragons and it gives 700. Hey Raphael, how's it going? So, Nails of Bane is just like so good. It doesn't have the versatility of these, but it's a 700 attack equip with no drawback. And it's applied to the monster type that has some of the highest attack monsters in the entire game that you can play out of the hand. It has a hand in the entire game behind Meteor Black Dragon. Like, it's insane. Absolutely nuts. Again, consider 3 of these instead of 3 of any other equip on Red Eyes Black Dragon, fusing on the first turn. It's really good. It's not as versatile as these, but playing Dark Dragons, this equip is just like levels above even these semi-versatile ones in the level below. Like, having a Beast Warrior deck with 3 of these and 3 of these doesn't mean anything. The versatility doesn't mean anything when you have a consistent Dark Dragon deck. All your monsters are the same type, and you just use a 700 attack quip on your monsters that pretty much always have 2000 attack or higher. It's ridiculous. It even kind of compensates for if you can't fuse on the first turn, you draw 1500 attack dragon, which will be 2 stars after reduction. You can play 2200 attack with just 2 stars plus 1 equip. It's pretty weird. Nails of Bane is good. That's why it's in very good. It's not broken. Look, compare Nails of Bane to Ryoku. No. No. Karibo. Below average. So, Karibo... The only thing Karibo and Multiply would ever be useful for is, like, it'll be a really slow way to receive information. It wouldn't beat over anything, it would just run into things and die. If it dies via a spell or trap effect, then it doesn't work anymore. Content dual la content apani. I don't have a clue what you said. You're from Indonesia. Okay, I didn't ask. Karibo, it's not really, like, Karibo is just fusion fodder. That's its purpose in the game, making stuff like Royal Spectre of Dawn repeatedly. Waste a turn. Yeah, why would you spend a turn playing Karibo with Multiply? Yeah, you're not, like, here's the thing about pretty much any card Yugi uses, it's not as good as it is in the anime. It never, ever, ever is. Because, you know why? Because you're not Yugi. You don't get to just cheat. Like, you can't, the video game, alright, it's a video game, it's a physical console with a disc that spins and reads, like, a bunch of data. Okay? So you can't just you can't just change how it operates and equip Multiply to Karibo and beat the final boss because he Mirror Force Ryoku's himself. I don't know, that would be the ending of the anime, if they had a Duels of the Roses anime. Like, and I equip Ryoku with Mirror Force. And he's like, no! And then he gets summoned, sent back to where you summoned him from. A different time or whatever. So yeah, it doesn't even give you damage, it just creates more Karibos, which is pointless. I mean, like, it doesn't matter if you have 1 bag of trash or like 50 bags of trash, right? In fact, you'd argue that's worse, because you have, like, what if you had 5 Karibos out on the field and you couldn't maneuver any of them to free up space to summon another monster? That sounds like that's like cursed Duels of the Roses right there. Holy crap. But it's still better than that piece of shit. You can actually make a... Well, is it? Yeah, it is. No, it's not, because it only works on Karibo, so it's the consistency is just as bad between the two. I'd rather equip Slot Machine with 700 3 times than equip Karibo, 3 separate Karibos with this card. It doesn't do anything. Two turn for nothing. What do you mean? It's just 1. You just equip Karibo with Multiply and you flip it face up and you have 2 Karibos. Like, that's fusion fodder, but if you want to do that, like, that's a useful way to do that, but it doesn't compare to just flipping up a Kage Ningen or Doron. You know? So... Karibo burn. How do you burn with Karibo? That's not possible. Ooh, alright, now we're getting spicy. Sword of Dark Destruction. No, that's not Sword of Dark Destruction. Sword of Dragon Soul. Sword of Dragon Soul. So these ones are 40 deck cost. So these effects are, you equip it to a certain monster type and then it kills a certain monster type. So, Sword of Dragon Soul, you equip on any warrior, literally any warrior in the game, and it automatically kills dragons. I feel like this was a gameplay consideration. I feel like they really thought this would be a good card for the single player mode of the game. When you think about it, it's actually quite lethal. imagine if dragons, like, consider dragons like the most powerful type in the game. Think about how much I talked about how powerful dark dragons with Nails of Bane are when you actually draw the right cards. You could just play a warrior with this, and they would have to waste a turn to play a warrior elimination or Raigeki or something. They would have to spend a turn doing that, or they would just lose to your monsters. If you just had like three monsters out that had this, and all they had was dragons, they couldn't actually fight your monsters. In saying that, outside of dragons, absolutely useless, doesn't give damage, only works on warriors. But yeah, in context of a single player, which we're not really basing things off of, I thought it's pretty cool, you know, you're pretty much guaranteed to have a warrior by the point you unlock that card, well, almost guaranteed. It'll be easy to find a warrior if you wanted to, if you somehow managed to get that card before you had warriors. But ultimately, it would only exist as a counter strategy to Dark Dragons, and forcing you to play warriors, that's not how you would do it. People would probably be more likely to have a utility warrior, like, I don't know. I don't even think... actually, you could put this on Green Carper. Steal a high attack dragon's attack power and defense power, and then just kill them. That sounds pretty cool. But that would be like a hard counter strategy. Either way, I think these cards are still good. Like, that's very powerful. Just killing an archetype as like giving a monster a passive ability, an effect to just kill one monster type until it dies down is good. But it is as good as a monster type it kills ultimately first. Secondly, is also depending on, like, you know, well, can you justify playing those monster types? So I'll probably put them in good. And the other ones follow closely behind. Enchanted Javelin you put on a fairy to kill fiends, which is funny because that's what their deck leaders do. So that'd probably be the lowest of them, because this card becomes completely obsolete once you have deck leaders. But again, like, not focusing too much on deck leaders here. I did a lot with the monster types because it's actually very, very relevant. And I do when I talk about fusions, because, well, like, equips on fusions, because that's actually relatable to how useful that card is. In the case of cards that don't give damage, it really doesn't matter what you play. Like, it's always going to do the same thing. Whereas, yeah, these are very different. I would put this above Enchanted Javelin, though. The anti-magic fragrance in this game, you equip it on plants and they automatically kill spellcasters. Yet again, like, these three archetypes are actually some of the highest archetypes in the game. I mean, the ones they count on: dragons, spellcasters, and fiends. Three of the highest attack monsters in the game, hands down. So that's the whole point of these cards. They were like, you know, if someone gets a 3 in a row, I don't know if you can reincarnate for these. You can't, right? Surely you can't. Yeah, there's no way. You get a 3 in a row for these, and then you're like, well, this isn't useful to me. And then you end up versing Seto Kaiba, and you have a warrior, and you look at your cards, and you see Sword of Dragon Soul, and you're like, like, you know. And it's funny that, because I think from a game design perspective and a card collecting game, where not everyone seems to know the effect of every single card, you could probably, like, forget about this card because you realize you're not playing against dragons, and you're like, this card is so high deck cost. But then, yeah, you do get to a deck like Seto Kaiba, and you're like, alright, GG. But yeah, even in PvP, like, these would be trump cards, so you'd just be like, alright, you want to play this monster type, then fuck you. Like, you might only even need one of these, and you just draw it at the right time, and just really punish the enemy for it. Alright, next one is Crush card. I think... I could be wrong, because I have to admit, I haven't played many Yu-Gi-Oh! Games at all. But the fact that this is so bad makes me want to claim that this is the worst Crush card ever. This is the worst version of Crush card ever. Like, consider the real-life Crush card and how devastating it was when it first, like, entered Yu-Gi-Oh! Compared to everything else. It was just crazy. It was basically like how broken Ryoku is in this game, but in real life. After they errated the shit out of it, now it's just trash. But this in-game Duelists of the Roses crush card is worse than that. It's 80 deck cost. You equip it on a card that has 1,000 attack or less, and when it dies, it leaves Crush on the field. So, what? How the fuck do I begin here? Like, when is this useful? If you haven't unlocked Immortals, you're playing casually, and you're against someone with really high deck cost, you could probably use it. If that wasn't the case, you probably would never use this card. I've experienced this, and again, I could say like everything that I'm talking about right now is based on experience, but trying to like make crush card decks is so bad. It's such a sad affair. And even if you want to stick something on an 1,000 attack or lower monster, just so you can let it die, like, it telegraphs itself. You're never going to kill an enemy's monster that's equipped with this if you're worried about it actually dying on Crush Terrain, because you know what card it is. It doesn't do anything until the monster dies, and you don't have to kill it. It doesn't give you an advantage unless you're playing Immortals, and if you're playing Immortals, you just play Immortals instead of Crush card, because the deck cost of Crush card is literally higher than, like, all the Immortal cards in the game, right? Like, what the hell? Just might as well play Dark Plant. 1 star, so it barely costs... It costs 1 summoning power, and it's, what, 12 deck cost? Just play that in defense mode. I would say the max, for what they were going for, should have been 40. Even then, it's still, like, I still wouldn't give a shit about it. It would still be a card I would never use. I know what they were going for. Like, if you made it too low, it would be really annoying. Like, imagine just everyone just using 3 crush cards and just being like, oh, you can't attack me. You have to Dark Hole me. That would just be annoying, but... this is just not good. I don't like it. The only redeeming quality is you can stick it on a monster that has 1,000 attack and then stick a shit ton of other equips on it. And then kamikaze into people without altering your strategy, but then it forces you to run a strategy of cards on with 1,000 attack or less that you're not fusing, so it's innately flawed. Innately flawed. If this was like 1 deck cost, it would be like the sickest card in the game. Like, look at my 1 deck cost of Poison. You think Kress Breaka's deck cost efficient? I'm just gonna kill all your monsters for 1 deck cost. Yeah, it's telegraphed, so this card is just probably like the worst card in the game. Then again, this is also telegraphed. I mean, all equips are, right? If you look into the graveyard, so that's a moot point, but still. You're like, you see the effect and you're like, you don't even need to look at the graveyard, you just know what's going to happen if you kill that monster. That's basically what that card does. Paralyzing Potion. This card is a lifesaver when you're a casual. My first deck I picked was Cruel, and I never realized how strong this was. When I was like, this was like the first game I played anything like this, so when I was 7 or 8 years old, I think. I remember, yeah, starting with a Cruel deck, and this was one of my first go-tos. This and Fiend Hands are like the only 2 things that could just neutralize the monster entirely. Compare, like, literally all the other equipped cards are like buffs of some sort. This is a debuff. Very unique. You can actually technically debuff your opponents with Crush card and then kill them with an Immortal. Like, that seems like a cool strategy. It's not very turn efficient though, because then you're skipping a turn to play a Crush card. So in the terms of skipping a turn to permanently stun someone, compare Paralyzing Potion to like a trap card, like a Gravity Bind, where you could play it and you don't necessarily have to do anything with it. You can just leave it next to cards that it protects. Paralyzing Potion is only a good defensive strategy if, like, it's the only way you can be attacked. If you play it in the way of something, it's a good card. And you don't have to worry about Royal Decree if you do that. So I think Paralyzing Potion would be a very, very interesting tech card. Like a thing you could use as a defensive option, but also offensive. Unlike trap cards, you can use it offensively. You could play it defensively, and then the enemy plays around it. Maybe they test if it's a trap. If you just got Royal Decree and it's not, then you move your Paralyzing Potion, permanently stun. The only problem with this card, like the only negative thing I have to say about it, is that you have to take a turn to use it. So unlike summoning a monster and using 3 equips, it doesn't work like the other ones really. Same with Kress Breaka. But it's really useful, isn't it? Casuals love it, and I can see people like player versus player actually using this card. It's a very low deck cost as well. And even though trap cards overall are better, they'd probably be more susceptible to be encountered by Royal Decree, because like those all trap cards are like really, really strong, and then Royal Decree just kills all of them, whereas there's no real counter to Paralyzing Potion, unless you're running machines, which are like one of the best types in the game. Then that's a bit of a rip. It's like a little brother to a trap card. The fact that, like, I personally don't even think Spellbinding is that overpowered, but if, like, the enemy overbuffs something and then attacks into this, then they are kind of fucked. Apart from that, not very useful. It's hard to rank this one, like, in correspondence to the other one. I just basically need to say, do I think this is a good card? Honestly, yeah, it's not bad. There are better cards that do similar jobs to it, but it has some unique properties about it, so I do admire it. Is it as powerful as a card that you equip on something to automatically, like, you take a turn to equip this on even a 1-star warrior, and you could automatically kill Meteor Black Dragon with it. So I don't know if this is really as high, but it's still a powerful effect on top of like versatile buff cards. Ooh, now we get to Kress Breaka. So yeah, I've not added in the equipped cards that just make fusions, because I think I intentionally did that because they're like not really possible to rate. I could potentially add them in to talk about them, but Kress Breaka is a very interesting card. I almost want to put it in Broken, but I don't think it's as good as Ryoku. It's a neutralizer. In the same way that Paralyzing Potion is. The difference is this removes all attack buffs. And considering the way most people would play is buff the shit out of something, even though paralyzing something that's very high attack is good, a better way, a more realistic way is of like getting past something is neutralizing it and then attacking over it. I wonder if the Blue Yeti picked up my bowel movements. I'm just kidding. No, my stomach's rumbling and it sounded a bit like a fart. Alright, the Blue Yeti is so sensitive, it picks up everything. So Kress Breaka, again, how good is it? I think, even though I have stated a few times, deck cost isn't a like huge factor, 1 deck cost is a big deal when you consider sticking 3 of them in a deck and having 3 deck cost. Like, it's insane. Compare that to 3 Megamorphs, like that's 45. So the difference does accrue over time, like way more than any of these other ones. I could have also made that argument in Crush card, but I didn't need to because that card was so bad. But compare 240 deck cost to 3 Crush card to 3 of these, and these would be better. You would just remove all buffs your enemy put on a card, and if you had the stronger cards or the strongest base attack cards, you would always beat over something you Kress Break unless you attack into a trap card or, yeah. Something like it's, I don't know, a damage reduction effect. I really like it. If this was like casual equipped tier list, well then you couldn't get Ryoku, I'd remove that, and I'd probably put this at the top, because it's just so useful against literally every opponent. But in saying that, player versus player, literally everyone would use equips. So if you drew a bunch of blanks for whatever reason, your deck was poorly constructed, I don't know, maybe Just the 1 out of 5 billion times it would have ever drawn something shitty like that. You can just play this in front of you, and if the enemy attacks into it, it's basically as good as any trap card. Like, it's arguably better. If the enemy sticks like 3 equips, or more than 3 equips on a card on the first turn, and like some of them more than 500, this does more than a Gravity Bind in damage reduction. I mean, it doesn't stun them, but it's 1 deck cost, man. Cut me some slack. Kress Breaka is just this 1 deck cost card that you can just stick in any deck, literally any deck, because it's effective against like pretty much every strategy that plays, except the nature one. But you know, nature decks probably not the best decks in the game anyway. Kress Breaka does not counter those effects. It literally resets the attack and defense values back to the monster's base attack and releases them from spellbinding. That's specifically how it works. And yeah, worst case scenario, like, you can just dump Kress Breakers if you're not using them. And that sounds ridiculous compared to doing, like, dumping other cards, but I mean, dumping in an emergency, you know, you would get use out of them, maybe some to most games, and then the other ones you wouldn't, you just get rid of them. They're always there as an option and low deck cost. So I didn't talk about the fusion ones, Insect Imitation, Cocoon of Evolution, and Megamorph, because I feel like they're fusion materials, not equips. And I was almost prepared to talk about them now, but I'm actually quite hungry. My stomach is roaring at me. I'm kind of surprised how hungry I am, but I forgot how late it was. I, for some reason, thought it was like 2 hours earlier than it was, so I definitely need to eat. So I hope you guys enjoyed the tier list. I hope you're happy with it. Again, like, there was no set rules. This isn't a be-all, end-all. Like, this is just something to do for fun and have a chat, hang out. So, appreciate everyone for watching. I think that'll be it. It took us a 3rd time to attempt to stream, but I figured out what it was, and it paid off. I thought I was going insane, but I kept my calm, and I was just looking at what was going on, and I was like, yep, I know what happened, and I fixed it. Thanks everyone for coming in. Thanks everyone for watching. I will see you guys later. I am going to eat some leftover pizza. So, bye-bye.